late, but here. Okay. Let's see here. Actually, it's because I was working Squatch. I was very busy. Let's see here. And we've already got a guess. Mr. Lujan.
I'm washing dishes.
You were just, how long were you holding that dish hoping to be able to show yourself washing dishes?
I'm washing dishes.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. I think it's
Washing dishes and you're squatching wishes.
It's prop comedy is what that is.
It's chores, Gary.
Okay, so because we're starting 38 minutes late, I'm going to send another, I'm going to make another post just so people know.
Gary, who really cares? It's just me and you. It's just me and you, and that's all that matters.
It can. We could just leave it at that. But do we want an audience watching me and you?
You know what? I know you're kinky, so whatever. But okay. I'm just saying, I'm all about the love, Gary.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, well, I'll just leave it for now then.
No, you can't. You can post it. I'm just joking. It's your show.
Well, no, I was just trying to. Where is? I see invite.
Nice.
I see share. Wow. I'm
thinking of trimming my toenails after this.
Oh, that would be cool. That would make for good streaming. Okay, yeah. I'm going to run through a quick update while you wash dishes, if that's all right.
Do you need me to mute while you do that?
No, you don't. You don't have to mute. So we took last week off, just to recap. This morning, I will be starting page, where am I at? 21.
21. Even I know that.
21. So I finished page 20 last night. Oh no, I accidentally started Premiere. Why did I do that? Force quit. Finished page 20 last night. Felt good about it. With like an hour and a half to spare. And was like, that's great. Was reading in bed. Shut off the light. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, I realized I wasn't done with page 20. That I had not put in. There's a view of the floor where I had decided I wanted some tile there. I had not drawn the tile. So now I got to circle back to page 20 and put in some flooring real fast. And then move ahead to page 20. So that is what I'll be working on today, is finishing page 20, which will only take a second. And then starting page 21.
I'm trying to quietly wash dishes while you.
I understand. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Did you ask me my update?
Well, yeah. What is? Are you going to be doing any work on your next feature today?
Jim woke up this morning early, and went to Starbucks for 4 hours and finished the storyboards to his next film. Called The Night Eats Its Own.
The Night Eats Its Own. I love it.
I am finished with the storyboards, and I will have you know that I spent this morning drawing lots of different versions of Pomeranians because they feature in the film. And I had a good time. And drawing plants. I was drawing Santa Barbara vegetation, which includes the aloe vera plant. The story takes place in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And I came home to wash dishes and saw that my young cat was out on the backyard lawn staring at some squirrels that were cussing at her. So I went outside and I talked with the squirrels. We're cool now.
Okay.
Everything's cool. Squirrels are cool. I told squirrels it's not cool to do that.
Yeah.
They understood.
Yeah.
And so I continued to, I just finished the dishes. Now I'm gonna go find a couch and talk to Gary a little bit, and try not to distract him. And Gary, I'm gonna show you my gallery of pillows too. While I'm at it.
Your what?
There's a Jim Mahfood original pillow.
Oh wait, hold on. I'm looking at my Illustrator.
Oh.
Back.
Can you see?
Oh, nice.
There's
Nice.
a Jim Mahfood original pillow.
Uh-huh.
There's a Prince of Pomona
Nice.
original
Yes.
pillow.
Yes.
You know this boy, The Mind of
course.
Lars Lazarus,
Yes.
original pillow. And then there's a From the Cougar and the Cub, original pillow. And those are my friends.
Perfect. Are you gonna add any, or are you out of pillow?
Oh, I'm gonna. There's actually some more on the on my. This is a total pitch. There are actually more items and pillows and things on my Society 6. How do you get there? If you go to my Instagram, there's a link, like a, what do you call that, link tree?
The link tree.
It's on there. Yeah, but if you go to Society 6, type in Jim Lujan, you'll see. But there's like Danny Fingerman pillows, and there's some other stuff. But
is there a Mickey Dazzo pillow though?
No, there isn't. But there's an adult toy. So.
Oh, well, I know that that was one of my conditions for doing it was.
People are always stopping me on the street and saying, Jim,
yeah,
why are you always wearing hats on Gary's show? And it's not because Gary's wearing a hat, although that is a good.
That's as good a reason as any. I mean,
that'll be my backup reason. The real reason because of my hair is all jacked up. Look at my hair.
No, that's the same reason and plus, especially now, it's really it's a thing of long hair. Like it helps me kind of.
I want to film you in slow motion going like that. Like shaking your hair out.
I'll send you a slow of me doing the kind of Farrah Fawcett.
That would be glorious.
Yeah.
Glorious.
Yeah.
So hey, I have a homework assignment for you and all of the viewers out there. So I spoke. By the way, it's Lonnie Millsap's birthday. My good friend Lonnie Millsap, cartoonist, New Yorker cartoonist, good friend of mine.
Yes.
His birthday today. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Lonnie.
But speaking of Lonnie, that leads to Jose Cabrera, because we're the ones that formed that group called CLAM. Cabrera, Lujan, and Millsap, and Montijo, because Rody Montijo was part of it. But and we'd have meetings, and Josh talks about that all the time. We had these big group. Well, Jose is going to be in town in July, and we're going to probably do another CLAM meeting. We're going to invite Josh and stuff. So.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're probably going to.
Clan. Not clan.
No, not clan. Yeah.
Right.
And that's more in Corey's side of town. They'll probably have some of those there. Corey won't be there, but I'm just saying. But yeah, so Jose is going to be in town. I just talked to him today. He's going to be in town. But my homework assignment for you, Gary, is to go check out Jose Cabrera's art, The Art of Jose Cabrera. I believe that's his name on Instagram, The Art of Jose Cabrera. I think you'll really, you guys have a lot in common stylistically, because it's this like pseudo realism. It's kind of really cool. So
the art of, here, I'm going to look right now.
Of Jose Cabrera. Yeah, I'm sorry, Squatch. I'm taking him away from Workin, but this will infiltrate his work at some point. He's like a little bit more psychedelic version of Gary, if that's possible.
Is it Cabrera like you would imagine it's spelled?
Yeah,
yeah.
Or just he's on my friends list too, but or maybe if you type Jose Cabrera.
I got it.
Oh, you got him? Yeah, he's awesome artist. So, but you see how he's got kind of a realism to his, and a cartoony realism.
Yes.
Kind of like what you do with yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks cool.
Yeah, yeah. He's very, very. I always suggest follow him.
He's got some dinosaurs running around in it too.
Yeah. Harass him. So that's tell him Jim sent you. If anybody subscribes to him on Instagram, tell him Jim Lujan sent you. And then be just really disruptive to his life.
Okay. Yeah. Make him regret it.
Okay. Well, there's my tip for the day.
Excellent. Thank you.
So Gary,
yes.
What are you going to do to capitalize on the UFO craze that's taking over our nation, as it should? Well,
I'm going to make a UFO themed comic book.
Have you sent?
I'm going to actually start it several years ago.
Have you sent copies of your book to MUFON?
I haven't.
Gary, That would be a good thing. That would be a really good thing. And this is going to sound very nut job, but I don't care. And there's some, when you say UFO podcast, it does sound really bad. I don't mean it that way. It's almost like saying, well, that's a very beautiful child actor.
Right.
Yeah. You can't say it without sounding a certain. But there are some UFO podcasts that are a little less nutty, but that are really cool because they talk about, again, my official opinion. You can quote me on this. My official opinion is I don't know what's going on. I don't say that, oh, I believe in UFOs and they're aliens from this planet or they're from another dimension. Or I don't have like a firm opinion on that. What I do have a firm opinion on is whether it's fake or real, something's going on. And that something is really interesting because if it's a smokescreen or if it's a lie or even if it's a misunderstanding, it's fascinating because then it becomes a human psychological study. But something's going on. I believe it isn't nothing. Is that right English? I don't know. Isn't nothing? It's not.
Yeah, I think anything. It is not nothing works.
Tisn't anything not. So anyways, that's my official opinions. Write it down. But with that being said, Gary,
yes.
Contact, what the heck's his, I don't know his name, but his show is called The Disclosure Team.
Oh my.
I know. Well, look, says the man who has Dinosaurs versus Mars Bots as his title of his life. Says the man with scissors for fingers.
That's right.
So Gary, just trust me. The host of the show, I believe he's English, but is the furthest thing from a nut job. Just a really interesting, common sense guy, and has really interesting discussions with all kinds of different people. He has skeptics on the show too. But that dude would appreciate your work, I guarantee you. And there's a few other people out there you should send it to.
Okay, hold on. I'm paint bucketing something right now, but then I'm going to write down this podcast.
Okay, and I got one more for you after that.
Okay, good.
But I don't know that guy's name. I wish I knew their names. I don't. But yeah, I am a nut job. If anybody's saying that in the comments, I love UFO stuff. I'm sorry. I just think I'm not in. Okay, this is sacrilegious, but I'm not a follower of Bigfoot. I have no opinion. God bless Bigfoot. Saw Squatch. Loch Ness Monster. Who knows? I'm just like everybody else. I don't have a real opinion on that. I mean, it's cool and could be. Who knows? But UFOs, especially in the last 5 years, UFOs are the most interesting because, like, what is going on, really? Yes. Will we know in 10 years? We'll be like, oh, this was a huge misunderstanding, for thousands of people, or it turns out to be this and it's not UFOs or whatever it is. It's just really cool. Okay, so
I see a couple. Did you say it's the Disclosure Team?
Disclosure Team. It's got a black and white logo.
Yes, with a saucer on it.
So yeah, so put that one to the side. I don't know who.
I'm adding it.
And then there's another guy that he's got a nickname, but he doesn't officially use this nickname. But if you look him up under UFO Jesus, and it's a joke nickname because he, as you do, has the Jesus Christ look.
Nice. Okay.
He looks like, so, but that guy would love your book for sure. 100% would love. And I bet you would talk about it on the air.
And he's got all sorts of crazy following.
And both of those guys are friends with like Lou Elizondo and all those dudes.
I saw that Lou Elizondo was on a recent episode of The Disclosure.
Yeah. And Jeremy Corbell, their friend. Oh, that's who you got to send the book to. Jeremy Corbell.
I find him he's the one that looks like a Sailor Jerry guy, right? Like
somebody said that Paul Pate says that Jeremy Corbell is a Jim Lujan creation.
He really is. He really is. And it's, it's funny. I watched whatever that latest, well, there's been a few recently. I watched one of the recent Bob Lazar documentaries that Corbell was involved with.
Yeah.
And found this says something too, because you're talking about alien spacecraft. You're talking about strange gravity technologies. You're talking about all this really far out there stuff. And I felt like Corbell was the part that was making it all very hard to believe. Like he was, just because he's, I don't know, like I just can't take him. There's something about his whole presentation I can't take
It's
straight.
because it's kind of showman. It's a little bit showman-y.
It's a little showman, but he also seems like, and I mean this in a good and a bad way, he seems like he's not, this is me tipping my hand, showing my own bias. I want a kind of sober, mature, very dry presentation of my way out there material. And he is he's the guy that you get cornered by in a bar who was like, yeah, but have you read the leaked report? You know, like, and it's like, oh my God, I'm trapped with this.
But see, Gary, the difference is you're trapped and I'm clawing to get into that conversation.
You're captivated.
That stuff.
You're like, I want to buy you a beer. Yeah.
Yes, I totally want to buy Jeremy Corbell a beer and go to get donuts with him and talk. I think that would be so much fun. Again, the difference is I'm open-minded. I'm not like it's this way.
Right.
But it's fun to hear somebody talk so passionately and totally. I mean, he's selling it. That's another thing that probably makes you a little bit weary. He's selling it.
Yeah.
But it's a cool. I think it's a cool thing he's selling. But like a Lou Elizondo is more usually a little bit more straight laced. But again, that guy was an intelligence guy with the government, so they kind of know how to speak, you know. Yeah. But Gary, no matter what, they all deserve your books and should be fans. And you could be. Gary, if they invite you to a UFO fest, you know you would be a guest of honor. You go
100%.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. I mean, why not?
I don't think I would go to a UFO fest, only because I went to a Beatles fest when I was probably 14, and I was so excited. I got there and I was like, "Holy crap!" I was so freaked out. Like, this is like sad Beatle cult. There are people sitting all over the floor in the hotel lobby, and they were singing, "Oh, we are saved."
Oh no!
And I was like, this is weird. Yeah, I just want to buy stuff. I want to buy bootlegs. I don't sign up for this. Yeah, it was strange. Did you ever tell you about the time, Gary, that I saw Chris Claremont when I did tell you about this, I think. When I was 13 years old, my dad, who's a fireman, took me to a comic book show in Anaheim. I asked him to. I'd never been to a comic book convention or anything. It was in Anaheim by Disneyland. And I went, and so I was so excited. There was comic books, and I was like, "Dad, can I get this one?" Is right? He's like, "You're not paying $20 for a comic book, you know." Anyway, so there was Chris Claremont was speaking. I was like, "Dad, I really want to see this guy's a writer. You read a lot of books. You'll like this guy." And we went and sat and watched Chris Claremont. And I remember being a kid watching Chris Claremont talk, and it was so awkward because it was so like, I felt like if I was like, "Dad, you got to meet my cool friends," and then my friend's like, "Hi, Mr. Lujan." Well, anyway, and it was so nerdy. The talk was so nerdy, and the people standing up going, "Chris, with the, you know," and Chris was like, "Yes, I'm a very serious author, and the Beast and Cyclops meet," you know, and I was like, "Oh, holy shit, my dad's gonna disown me." He didn't care. I don't know, but I felt that. I felt very embarrassed. Like, this is comic books. And as a kid, I think that scarred me for life.
Sure.
So now I hang out with people who make comic books. Isn't that great?
Look at you.
But they're indie, baby. They're indie, right?
They're indie. It's different. It's different.
Yeah.
It's totally different.
Yeah. But I just really logged in just to talk with you, Gary, because I enjoy our talks.
I enjoy our talks.
They're very therapeutic.
And to respond to something you said, I wouldn't call myself. I'm trying to decide if I would define myself as a skeptic. I don't know how we're defining skeptic. Skeptic usually seems like code for disbeliever.
skeptic is good. Debunker is bad.
Yeah. See, and I
Debunker
wouldn't
has
say
an agenda.
I don't mean skeptic in the sense of dismisser or disbeliever. I would say literally skeptic, like, you know, like when anytime I hear this stuff, I'm a little like, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
But
I mean, you
then
have
I'm
to. You have to.
open, like I'm open to it. I'm not, you know, I will say of all those things that you rattled off, UFOs, Bigfoot, like all the things. I don't have it handy.
Let's get the
I
record.
am really, I've always
The record straight. I'm only into UFOs. Okay.
right. Okay, so the UFO thing obviously is very interesting to me, especially lately because there's a lot of stuff coming out that there's not a clear, easy, like wash it away answer to where it's like, well, now I don't know. It's not like 40 years ago where someone has a picture of a hubcap they threw in front of the camera, you know, and it just like, oh, I could, you know, now there's a lot of stuff that you can't just rule out. But
right.
So like that's sort of interesting. Loch Ness, I don't buy at all. Like but I've always found the Bigfoot thing very compelling. I've always like I'm not gonna say like I believe in Bigfoot. I believe Bigfoot is a thing, but I'm also not gonna say I don't believe. Like I am perfectly agnostic on Bigfoot. Where
Can you give a really straight look into the camera and say, I believe in Sauce. I believe in Squatch. Can you just say that?
I do believe in Squatch. Squatch, I believe in you. I believe in you, and I believe you can do anything you put your mind to.
The magic's already in you.
Yeah, you have everything you need. You have everything you need, Squatch. But yeah, actual like Bigfoots, Bigfoots out in the forest, abominable snowmen, all that kind of thing. Like, do I think that's actually a thing? I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by the possibility. And it could be a little bit like I think you are with the UFO thing, where because I want it to be real so bad, it's hard for me to like, you know, it's like I just love the idea so much that I can't.
Me too.
I can't. In fact, when I started, before I decided I was going to do the comics, I've talked about this story in other videos. I was searching. It's like, I'm going to follow through on a big project. I'm actually going to finally sit down and do some ambitious creative project. And I had options in front of me. I could do the D versus M comics. I could do this novel I'd been screwing around with forever. Or I could finish some of the screenplays. Like I have two or three screenplays in like various stages of done. Nowhere near, none of them are close to done, but like kind of outlined out and started to write. And one of the screenplays is a Bigfoot story.
Nice. I like it. I like it.
I love it so much.
I like it. Well, Gary, I
had a take. I thought I had an idea. But.
It's noon, so my parole officer is going to close my cage in a minute. No, I do got to go, but I want to say this
real quick. Just you should know these two things before you. First of all,
tell me.
Squatch is offended. We're being culturally insensitive.
Okay. True. Yeah, I agree.
Why people are real is extremely offensive. And I don't know if you caught this. Ronnie wants you to come on to Crimson Owl sometime. And yeah. So
I will do. I will do that. Just hit me up. You can give him my email address.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be great. I wasn't looking at any of the comments. I will say this to you, if you ever, when I mentioned UFO Jesus and I mentioned Disclosure Team,
yes,
and you snickered.
Well, UFO Jesus is just sort of a great.
That is pretty good.
Yeah,
but just remember, I get those same looks when I tell my coworkers you need to read Dinosaurs versus Mars Bots.
Yes, I'm sure you do.
And look at you're the real deal. So just saying.
Yeah, that's right. No, I'm not. You're right. Point well taken.
By the way, last thing I'll say, have you ever considered renaming the comic to Dinosaurs versus Mars Bots, bitch?
No, I haven't.
Okay, think about it. That would be good.
I haven't. I'll definitely I'll consider that.
All right, Gary. All right.
No,
Fist
to be
bump.
seriously though, and we've talked about this. There have been times where I've considered changing the branding strictly to just D versus M and never
I like that. I was
say
all
the
for
whole
that.
thing.
I vote for that.
Which yeah, I still may do at some point. Who knows? But
And then never mention it again.
well, you know, I'm very good at talking about things and follow through. That's where it gets tricky.
You got the job. You're hired. All right. And my cat, say goodbye. She doesn't care. Anyway, okay. All right. Well, Gary, it was good. I was good talking with you. Let's have a telephone conversation again because those are always epic.
Yes. Let's
All
do
right.
it.
I'll see you
Okay.
around.
All right. Take care. Jim Lujan, everybody. Okay. So, what I'm doing right now is this is sort of more complicated than it needed to be because I'm doing it after the fact. But so I have a scene here of a room that I did a perspective drawing of. And it's the room where I neglected to, that might be good enough. Oh, wait a minute. No. I see. What I'm doing, I'm sorry, I'm talking and working at the same time because this is always working. That'll do. Okay. Now I can concentrate on talking rather than working. So there's a panel. Stay with me here. There's a panel. You see a room from perspective. The floor is visible. There's a character in the shot. There's all sorts of stuff in the background. Like it's a full panel, like a scene. There should have been tiles on, like I needed to detail that it's a tile floor, and I forgot to do that. Now, after the fact, after I finished this, after I pulled out all my reference, after it's all like just a finished panel, I'm realizing, oh no, I needed this geometric tile floor. Geometric, I mean, it's square tiles, like square ceramic tiles. And since it's perspective, there's going to be, basically a grid I need to figure out like what that's going to look like. And you're doing it after the fact, after it's been done. It's kind of a nightmare. Like, if you can picture, I mean, yeah, if any of you have drawn before, especially if you've drawn perspective, you can imagine like how it's kind of a hassle. Like now you're looking at a finished drawing and now you've got to grid it out or something, which is kind of a pain. You're going back in and you're dropping lines and you're trying to like, where would and how, and this is where it gets crazy for me. You're trying to figure out how big are these tiles? And therefore, like you're not arbitrarily just doing checkerboard on the ground. Like for me, it needs to be consistent. How big is each square tile? Therefore, how big, and there's a person here, how big would it be next to her foot? Or next to her hand, or next to this coat hanger, or next to this door. Like you got to work that all out. So it's not as easy as just going in and going like there, perspective. Like I have to think about, well, how big is this grid, and how big? It's a whole thing. So there's that. But let's see here. Wait a second. Where is your favorite? I'm sure he's got things to do, man. Like, look, this is Squatch. When you love somebody, set them free. I'm not the keeper of Foo. Foo doesn't have to check in with me. I trust Foo. Let's see here. Okay, so now I think I dropped the lines I need and I can do this tile. So let's see here. And this will only take a second. The hardest part, as with all things perspective, is just getting your lines figured out. Once you have that, it's sort of elementary. You're just kind of going and like, okay, so line here, line here, line here. What I was going to talk about today, just as trivia, behind the scenes trivia, was, I'm talking and working here. An example of something that comes up. I was sharing this with the Artcasters guys last night. So, D vs. M 1979 obviously takes place in 1979. One of the most obvious ways, like when you're doing a period piece, and you got to come up with basically a period setting. You're thinking about what are the things that indicate, like what would you expect to see in a room in 1979? What would you expect to see on people in 1979, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? One of the most common things that especially we probably don't think about so much anymore, but I remember very clearly, is timepieces, clocks and watches. Like people kind of forget now with their smartphones, if you wanted to know what time it was, and of course you always did, you needed clocks on walls and watches on your wrists, and that's how you kept track of time. And so if you look at, especially if you really think about, like if you look at old pictures of people in their living room in the 70s or whatever, you look at old pictures at all, everyone has a watch. There's usually, if it's a main room, there's a clock somewhere, all that stuff's around. So with 75 or 79, 75 as well, 75, the Men in Black have wristwatches and things. At 79, like main characters are wearing watches, rooms have clocks in them, etc. All makes sense. Nothing crazy there. What becomes pain, and this is just a glimpse of the neuroses of doing a period comic. Sometimes the watch or the clock or whatever, I'm still doing lines here. Hold on, I'm just checking, making sure I got all this pretty well. Kind of doing some line weight stuff. Okay, I think I got it. Sometimes those clocks and watches are visible to the reader, which means, let's see if I got this right. Oh, damn it. I'm sorry, I really shouldn't be trying to explain this while I'm working, but I'm almost done with this and I want to move on with my life on to page 21. There. Hold on, almost there. There. Okay, that works. All right. Saving. Page 20 finished. All right, there we go. Now, sorry, I shouldn't have been. So this is what I was saying. Clocks and watches everywhere. Sometimes the reader's going to see the clock or the watch. You're going to have a close-up of a character. You're going to see the watch a little bit. You should be able to read the hands. There'll be a clock on the wall. Now you got to pick a time. You can't just, have just a random, just whatever. Like you've got to decide what time it is. Now that's already kind of one level of like a little going deep, deciding like, well, what time is this taking place? Like, because when I wrote the script, I think I had it in my head like this takes place at night. This is like late at night. But to actually now like nail it down, when, what time, we see a clock on the wall. What time is it? Okay, so you pick a time. But now the torture is every time as going forward in the comic, you see a clock, you see a wristwatch, whatever, you got to pick a time now and you got to be consistent to whatever time you picked back on page 6 or whatever. So if it was, and I'm making up numbers, like if it was 1 a.m. on page 6, and then you see another clock or a wristwatch on page 15, if you're me, you now want to go back and you want to read through and kind of come up with in your head, like how much time has passed. So it's consistent. So if it was 1 o'clock on page 6, how long has it been? Has it been 5 minutes? Has it been 20 minutes? Was there a cut? Has it been a few hours? Like how long, like what time is it now? And then you have to keep doing that every time you catch a glimpse of a clock or a watch. And that's something I was having to deal with this week, because I think people who follow my Instagram, I know already know this. One of the main characters in this comic is wearing like a very 70s plaid jacket, which is a pain in the ass to draw, but looks kind of cool. Well, on page 20, she finally takes it off. Yay, fantastic. But that means there's a watch on her wrist that now you can clearly see. So anytime we're close to her and you're actually going to see this watch and you're going to see the time, now sometimes you wouldn't. At a certain distance, you're not really going to see the hands. I can sometimes cheat it and say like, well, it's got glare from the overhead lights or something, like you can't really see the hands. But sometimes it'll be like you should be able to see it. You should be able to read it. And then I got to figure out what time is it? What time was it the last time I had to decide what time it was? Does it make sense? Like, how long has it been? The stuff you just wouldn't even think of, if you're like, I'm going to do a comic book, like that kind of level of detail. And some comics you wouldn't worry about. Like, I have a feeling no one who's, out there drawing, fucking Blue Beetle is worried about that. But for D versus M, it's a very like, this might sound like a weird self-compliment, and I don't mean it that way. I mean it just very like, it's a very intricately designed little story. And there's a lot of little details that are usually meaningful. Usually I'm placing little details very deliberately, very intentionally. I do write these comics to, I mean, there's, all the broad things with storytelling that you want in a story, in a comic, in a story. But I also, especially given the genre, like sci-fi, conspiracy, that kind of thing, I do seed little details everywhere in it, little Easter eggs for people who want to find them. And that's the kind of thing where if you're inviting that kind of attention and scrutiny to your work, and then you're playing fast and loose with like time, something basic, like what time is it? Like you kind of have to approach the whole thing. It's like every blade of grass, like everything needs to be considered. So anyway, but that, again, there's a consistency. And what I noticed, and this is, I'll save for so my process is I go through a page a week as I've been doing. When I'm done, I usually set it aside for a week to kind of step away from it, to get a little bit of distance. So then when I come back to it, I can kind of look at it with fresh eyes and go through from page 1 and with like a red pen and Post-its and like, what do I need to edit? What do I need to fix? What needs to tweak? Whatever. One thing I've noticed already that's going to be a part of my cleanup process when I'm done is there are a couple parts of the book where the main character, Dr. Wagner, like the way she's maybe folding her arms or gesturing or whatever, even though she's wearing her coat and like the watch would be hard to see, she's definitely wearing a watch, and you should be able to see it. Like it should, you should barely be able to see it because she's like moving her hand like this, or she's reaching and the jacket's riding up. You should be able to see a watch there, and I didn't draw it. So like I'm gonna have to go back and like, would you see the watch? Would you see this? Another thing I know already, I'm not even looking at it because I know it's gonna be all over the place. Like, how long is her hair? I think I'm always kind of like, every time I'm drawing it, I might be doing it a little bit differently. Once I have it all done and read it beginning to end, realize like, oh, her hair's too long in this panel. Her hair's too short in this panel, whatever. She's got a barrette or something on the back, like clipping it back. How big is that barrette? I think that size is probably varying from page to page. Because every time it's just like, okay, here's the barrette. And like, am I putting it in exactly the right place? Is it the same kind of, does it look too big, too small? That's the little stuff I'm looking at the end of the process. That I think makes it end up looking very tight and considered once I've gone through that process and like put out like in a finished book. In the past ones, it was the other things. Like with Jenny in '97, it was like, does her black eye look the same in every panel? Is it looking like, because sometimes it would be like changing size, or it looked more gnarly on one page than another, like trying to make it consistent. Where's the bruising in her eye? Like where, like, because the white of it is kind of hemorrhaged, like you see it's dark on one corner. Like where does that begin and end? And doing it the same way every time, where like it's crazy. It can drive you a little batty. But. Okay, so as I said, page 20 done. Is it saved? Fully saved? Yes. Okay, so now we are starting page 21. Page 21 is another one. Let's see, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a 5-panel page. The top is one wide panel, then 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see here. What I'm doing, as usual, I'm triple checking this because it always makes me nervous. I find another comic page that has the layout that's close to what I want or is what I want, and just rename and use that as my template. It's always scary because you're taking an existing finished page and you're like saving over it, and you're always like, oh, I did rename it, right? I renamed it. Because I've done that before and it's scary, and I'm going into my backups to find the page I accidentally basically deleted. Which I've not done yet. I mean, not in a way that hasn't been salvageable, but oh my God, I know that day is coming where I'll realize like I just lost a week's work or something. I can't, it's too nightmarish to think about, but I know it's within the realm of possibility. So let's see here. I don't know, other than like how work is going on the book, which is fine. Not much else. I think like everybody else, I finished Kenobi. Whatever. I mean, I really don't have a strong, it's kind of my reaction to Boba Fett, where it was like, it's fine, I guess. I did enjoy it more as it went. To me, so Kenobi overall, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, but to me, it is my reaction to Kenobi, the whole series, is a perfect bell curve, okay? Where, in the sense that there's this one tail end of it. I don't mean linearly, like in terms of the series. I just mean there's this much of it that I really liked. There's this much of it that I thought was garbage. And the vast majority in the middle, the big peak of the bell curve, is just like, okay. Like, you know, it's totally like just average. And that's me. I've talked to all types. I've talked to people who hated it beginning to end. I've talked to people who thought it was great and they loved it. You know, like, so this is just another example of like, it's just not really something I feel like I needed or wanted, and it's not. I don't know. It's tough. Like, I do consider myself a huge Star Wars fan. But man, it's so like hit or miss the past 20 year, ever since the prequels, like including the prequels, it's just this weird mixed bag where, like, I don't know. Like, I hate to say it as it, again, what I would consider myself a huge Star Wars fan, but I'm kind of resigning myself to the fact that most of Star Wars, when you look at like the volume of content out there, I don't care about or like. And that's a weird balance, like, to where you realize like the majority of this thing that you're into that you think of yourself as liking, actually you don't like. That it's very specific, the parts of it that you know really enjoy. And what keeps you in it is you're always hoping that whatever the new thing is going to be more of what you like about it. And instead it's going off. I think part of the problem, especially with something like Kenobi, is like, and this is something we've talked about a lot in the streams, I just don't give a shit about Clone Wars. I don't give a shit about Rebels. And I really have a difficult relationship with the prequels. And it seems like more and more Star Wars content is dipping into those wells as opposed to the parts of Star Wars I do really enjoy. It's good. It's mining material from Star Wars that I don't care about, or actually actively dislike. You know, like, I just don't like Clone Wars. I'm sorry. You know, so it's like, oh, you know, like we're referencing all this Clone Wars shit. It's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, it's just, I really, you know, it's just not what I want. And now, you know, now I see a lot of friends. And again, I'm not saying they're wrong. I think Star Wars has now become big and diverse enough where you can have two people who consider themselves Star Wars fans that don't agree on Star Wars at all. They like totally different, distinct areas of it. People are super hyped for the like Ahsoka series. I don't care about Ahsoka. Like, she's so uninteresting to me, you know? And that goes all the way back to like Clone Wars. Like, I don't even like the idea that Anakin had a Padawan. Like, just I'm objecting to the whole premise, you know? So it's like, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think I've gotten to the point where I love the trilogy, the original trilogy. I kind of love the first two movies of the sequel trilogy. And then the rest is just mixed bag. Like, it ranges. It's kind of like that bell curve thing. It ranges where some of it I like, and some of it I hate, and most of it I think is just like, whatever. Like, this is just unnecessary, you know? Like, this, I don't like the Solo movie. The Solo movie is a kind of a good example. There's bits of Solo that are great. There are bits of Solo that are stupid. And most of it is like, it's all right, but I didn't need this. I just didn't need this story. I don't need to know where Han Solo got his blaster. I don't need to know how he got his last name. Like, this is just product, you know? It doesn't, and it just feels like that. It feels just like it doesn't feel like art, it feels like merchandise. And that's why it's like, but also some of it is my like orientation as a consumer of art, whether it's games or movies or comics or books. Like some people love, like, for example, like, is it the Silmarillion? Like they it's not enough for them to read Lord of the Rings. They need to know like everyone's lineage back 4,000 years and all the songs and all the weird things that are referenced and who built this thing that had collapsed and fallen down and then they rebuilt it. Like they want all that stuff. To me, that is so uninteresting. You know, like it's just, I don't even know how to describe it. It's this weird fetishization of a piece of art where it's like, let's just explore all the edges of it. And I feel like that's kind of what Star Wars is doing now. It's like, I mean, people have joked about it. It's like, you know, it felt for a little while that like every weird droid you saw in the background, every weird character who walked into a frame is like gonna have like a side comic story or a movie or an action figure. It's like, why? I don't need to know any of this. I don't care about any of this. Isn't story. This is world building. And there's a difference. All right. I just get whatever. But let's say here. Boys has been, I've heard that. I'm way behind on the Boys. But everyone's been saying like this is a great season, and I'm definitely going to catch up with it at some point. Fogbreaker, how's it going, man? Story page 2 minute horror comic. Nice. I would like more information about that horror comic. Yeah. See, and that's the problem. Like, the problem is there's two things. Like, obviously, I was introduced to Star Wars when the world was being introduced to Star Wars. And so to me, like, nothing beats the original trilogy. The original trilogy is not that those movies are perfect. Like, believe me, I'm not like weird, nostalgic, starry-eyed about this. A New Hope has problems. It's not, I mean, you know, that was our first hint that George Lucas can't do dialogue or direct people to act like human beings, like A New Hope, you know? Like, I mean, as great as that movie is, like, everything we're ever going to realize about George Lucas over the next, 50 years was obvious there. And Return of the Jedi, like, yeah, like this weird, like, it does start to feel like a very special episode of The Muppet Show in places, like it's just, they're really leaning hard on, and it I don't know, like that's another thing where you start to see where Star Wars is maybe could end up going, this emphasis on like weird, child-friendly creatures and figures and stuff like that. Like Ewoks, the Ewok it's hinting at things to come. I always love that fact, that little bit of trivia, that the word Ewok is never used once in that entire movie. But we all know what an Ewok is. Why? Because of merchandising, because of action figures, because of all that stuff. No one ever says Ewok. Like in that whole movie, you wouldn't know what those things are called. Kind of, again, sign of things to come. But I never, even with all whatever criticism I can level on those three movies, very little I could level at Empire. Empire is just, I don't think we'll ever have an Empire again. Like, I honestly don't. Like, I think that was just a very lucky combination of talent and circumstances that gave us the best Star Wars movie there is. And I worry that that's not really an option now. I mean, I would love to be surprised, but I don't know. But the problem is, I got introduced to Star Wars with the best Star Wars, and like, you know, the original trilogy. And on top of that, I got introduced to the best Star Wars when I was between. So those movies came out when I was between like 3 and 9, something like that, you know? So I was the perfect age for Star Wars. And it also happened when there was nothing like it out there. So I totally appreciate a lot of this is nostalgia, and I totally appreciate there's a lot of this that can't be recreated. And it's unlikely at this point in my life I will ever have that same experience with a Star Wars movie ever again, because that's impossible. You can't. Like, it's a set and setting thing. Like, you need to have the experience of Star Wars that I had in like 1979 when it was still in theaters, and I saw it when I was like 4 years old. You have to be 4 years old, and it has to be the first time you ever saw a movie like that. Like, that's it. There's no going back. There's no recreating that. You can never have that experience again. And I get that. I do still think, though, there are elements to the original trilogy that they have given up on in favor of I don't know, in favor of whatever the F they're doing. I do think, I forgot who said this to me. I would give credit. I think it was my friend Tony, but I'm not 100% sure. We were talking about the fact that Clone Wars, one of my objections to both our objections to Clone Wars, is that it feels like, okay, the prequels were defective, like just poorly done, okay? But it's like, hey, let's spend, you know, whatever the next 15 years and 120 episodes making them make sense. Like trying to patch, like, let's do a band-aid here, let's sew this up. This is gushing blood, let's plug that up. Let's explain, you know, like this, let's go back to this, let's circle around and make that make sense. Let's make Anakin's descent make more sense. Let's finally talk about Cypher Dyas. Let's, like, you know, it's all this like basically just repair job on the shaky piece of shit, hulking, cobbled together mess that was the prequels, okay? And after all that time and all that work and all that is like millions and millions of dollars spent, now you will actually find someone say to you with a straight face, the prequels aren't so bad if you've watched the Clone Wars. Okay, mission accomplished, I guess. Like, I mean, that's weird. Now, to me, it's very clear what they're doing is, let's make the Rise of Skywalker make sense. The Emperor's been planning this cloning business for a long time. Yeah, like all the ways that Rise of Skywalker was broken. Are we going to spend the next 10 years now with all this spin-off stuff making that shit make sense? I think so. I don't need that. Like, I don't want to see your revisions in real time. Like, especially where, you know, and I can be a little highfalutin about this because I'm a writer. You know, like, it should have been right from the start. You had no excuse. There's no excuse for turning in a half-finished project, a half-baked project. I don't accept that. And I'm not going to entertain you for the next 15 years making spin-off series to make it make sense why Palpatine's back. Stop it. Stop it. And the fans carry water for them. I can't believe I'm getting off this tangent. This is the last thing I'm going to say about it. But this is a good example of it. I saw some meme, because I like Star Wars stuff generally, and like the stuff Facebook tries to show me this stuff. And someone was like, oh, did it ever occur to anyone that when the Emperor was goading Luke into killing him in Return of the Jedi in the throne room, he was doing the ceremony that he's having Rey try to do with him at the end of Rise of Skywalker? This is battered wife syndrome, man. It's not even retconning. It's like trying to make this all make sense. You're desperately trying to make this make sense. You're desperately trying to make it consistent when it's just not. Why are you doing this? This isn't your job. This was the writer's job. This was the director's job. You're rationalizing. You're justifying. And my last thought on this is, I guess I got shared all over. There's that clip of video. It's like Dave Filoni in a writer's roundtable, and I think like all the Mandalorian people are there. And he goes on this big, passionate speech about the duel of the fates and how like important that like Phantom Menace was, and blah 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 blah. And everyone, you saw like that Ron Howard's daughter sitting there almost looking misty-eyed, like she's so swept up in his passion. And it's all after the fact bullshit. None of that stuff was in anybody's head at the time, and don't let them tell you otherwise. That's a super fan making it good. And I'm not going there with you. I'm not going to play that game. Like, it's weird. It feels dysfunctional. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Okay, and we're done. We're done with that. And okay, Squatch, I do remember. I'm excited that that's the one you're doing. I can't wait to see it. Did not intend to do a Star Wars rant today. Okay, I'm going back to my page. I'm not going to be looking at my chat for a second. Bear with me. Just so you know, this frustration, it comes out of love, baby. It's all out of love. It's love of Star Wars. And love makes you crazy. Okay. So, a glimpse ahead. Let's see here. Wait. Page set up. Cool. All right. A look ahead. So next week, no, I'm intending that's it. There's nothing left to talk about now, unless we want to do a very special episode, mostly to aggravate Squatch about. I think I will do this at some point. I want to round up my people, my fellow fans of The Last Jedi, which I still maintain is perhaps the second best Star Wars of all the movies, right behind Empire. The Last Jedi is fantastic. And people, I believe people are going to realize that someday. I know it kind of like, it was very different in ways. It was things that people didn't want to see in some ways. but it was all the right choices. It was all exact, and what's disappointing about it, the reaction to it, and the way, not just the reaction to it, but the way Disney freaked out. Disney's reaction to the reaction doomed us to bland vanilla Star Wars for the rest of our lives. I'm worried. That's what I think. I think there was a moment in time there where the future of Star Wars looked really interesting. And now it's just, let's find people to play the actors in Rebels. It's like, who the fuck cares? Like this, ugh. Anyway. I know you feel that way, Squatch, but I think you're going to come around someday. You'll realize you need to step away from it a little bit. Come back. Maybe that's the new name for the live stream. Love and Star Wars makes you crazy. Okay. I am opening my Excel spreadsheet with my dialogue so I can paste in my page 21 dialogue. I don't think there's a lot of it on this page, but I don't remember. That's why I have a spreadsheet, so I can look. There is dialogue. Cool. I know Jason, Fogbreaker Studios, I'm seeing little teases of something he's working on, his next thing. And I hope he hops on at some point. But, today, tomorrow, some other, whenever, sometime in the future, talk about it. Because I'm curious about it. And that reminds me. Okay, so today, where is it? I've got it here somewhere, I think. Yes. So Josh Kimball, friend of the show, Josh Kimball, he's doing a signing today, comic book signing. I forgot where, someplace in California. Obviously, it wasn't in the cards for me to go. But I read his book. I have thoughts. I would like to talk to him about it. And he's also touched on some topics in some of his streams that I thought there's some overlap, I think, in our kind of creative motivation and the sort of themes we're exploring in funny ways, like ways you wouldn't expect between the sort of work he does and the sort of work I do. So I'm hoping, it's not set in stone yet, but we talked about next Saturday, Josh will come by and I'd like to get more into those topics and talk more about his work and explore some of those things. So look forward to that. If not next week, hopefully next week, but at some point in the future. I'm trying to think who else needs something that needs to be shouted out. Jim obviously was on earlier, and Sugar Machine is, yes. I was mixing up for what, because he had Pleasure Beast before that, and for a second I was like, Sugar Beast, Pleasure Machine, like all of that sort of works. Sugar Machine, definitely is silly. You should go watch that. He's already hard at work on his next thing. He's a monster. And who else? Let's see, who else can I give a little? Oh, Scott Cirklin, Cirkworks. He's got a Kickstarter coming up this month for his latest Young and the Dead. It's got a lot of cool like tiers. There's going to be like some guest artist covers and things. Maybe from this guy right here. Maybe he did one of them. But so you're gonna have to stay tuned for that, and obviously I'll push it once there's specific dates and links and things like that. I'll steer you toward them. Let's see here. Okay, let's make a drinking game every show whenever Gary goes on a Star Wars rant. Yeah, no, it's not safe. I don't recommend anyone does any kind of drinking game around me and Star Wars. But I'm trying to move on from it. Let me finish with something positive, not a rant. I did really enjoy. I want to be careful because I know some people are still watching it, but I don't think this will be shocking. There is a final duel between Kenobi and Vader, and I did really enjoy that. I thought that was pretty cool. I found it a lot more satisfying and interesting than the stupid long thing in Revenge of the Sith, like the weird where there's like swinging on cables and floating on little robots over lava rivers and stuff. And it went on for what felt like 30 minutes. Like it just kept going and going. It was almost like a parody. I thought this one was pretty cool. With one little exception, and I'll talk about it once everybody's seen it. There's one thing where I can, without spoiling anything, there's like this kind of what I was joking with someone else is like this like Omega level power force stuff where characters are doing things that feels more like video game force stuff than movie force stuff. It's like way off the charts. It's like that doesn't seem like something that someone should be able to do based on what we know about the force in the other movies. But you know, whatever. Vader does this. There's something earlier in the series. I forgot what episode it is. I want to say it's probably like 4. I think it's episode 4. Vader does something where, sorry, minor spoilers here. A ship is flying away, a big ship, not just like a little ship, a big ship. And he like stops it with the force, like, holds it in the air, forces it on the ground, and then with the force is like tearing it open. Look, don't get me wrong, really fucking cool to watch. Kind of off the charts. Like that's not. But again, I'm programmed with the old trilogy. People are using the force to like lift rocks. Yoda lifts that X-wing out of the swamp and is exhausted afterward. That's a big deal. Vader is stopping this whole ship from flying away and tears it up. And then if he can do that, why is he even bothering with a lightsaber? Why isn't he just like, I mean, what? I don't know. Whatever. A little weird. But the last duel in Kenobi, I thought, between those two, was pretty cool. And it has a very cool character moments at the end that worked for me. So just to show that I'm not totally a dried up, angry Star Wars person, like there were parts where I was like, that's cool. That's good. I just thought a lot of it was like unnecessary. Okay. That's it. I'm sorry, Squatch, this is your fault. You're I feel like nudging me and making me spin up again. Okay. Dialogue. Another interesting challenge I had this last week, and I gotta be very careful here. I don't want to reveal too much. But picking fonts or deciding how to handwrite something for unusual sounds, or let's say vocalizations, like deciding how do I want to express how that sounds. I know this is great video right now, but I'm just trying to get this right. I'm glad I was looking at it because that's not right. There. Okay. Okay. I've got my dialogue in. Now, because there's one panel in here in particular where saving my dialogue document, closing it. There's one panel in here in particular where Squatch, I'm working. You should be happy. You should be defending this. There's a panel in here. It's basically your first very clear look at this room, like this whole area, what it looks like. And for stuff like that, especially complicated stuff, like I try to usually make, I've talked about this in other places, SketchUp models, just to help me kind of figure out the perspective and what you would see and what you wouldn't see, and to keep it consistent. So then as characters are moving around through the room or you're seeing different views, I can actually move my model around and make sure everything is staying consistent. Like if I've got this thing on a table here, and then I rotate the room 45 degrees or 90 degrees or whatever, I don't have to redo, like, where is this coffee mug on the desk? Like I can just see real quickly, like, okay. It also helps me think on a level about like what's in this room. It's to me, it's virtual set design. It allows me to build a room and fill it with stuff and make it look like a real space, and then have that reference for when I'm drawing, rather than every time. I know there's probably people out there who are not as worried about the details, and when they're going to draw like a space, they're just figuring it out as they go. I'm not doing that. I can't do that. That's just not the way my brain works. I need to know exactly what's going on with this set. So anyway, the first panel on this page, the big wide panel, is giving you a look at this room. So I need to open my SketchUp model of the room and kind of figure out like what view am I going for, what angle. So I have that reference of what things look like, what looks interesting, what would be a neat view of it. That's sort of visually where the reader gets to see not just the room out of curiosity, but also like stuff that I need them to know where stuff is. So when it comes up later, they have a sense. Some of this is, you're introducing things to a reader that they don't realize are going to be important, but they are, and that's why you're showing them to them. But you need to kind of pass it off. You don't want to do the thing like I think the expression is, or the concept is something like Chekhov's gun or something like that. I think it's a theater thing. It might be a movie thing, and the idea is, if you're gonna have a gun, and I might be sort of butchering this a little bit, but the gist of it is correct. If you're gonna have a gun hanging, if you're gonna show the audience a gun hanging over the mantle in Act 1, that gun has to be used, like come into play in Act 3. Like if you're taking the time to show someone something, like there needs to be kind of like a reason you're doing that. More or less. I'm kind of, like I said, I'm just kind of off the top of my head trying to remember what that is. First of all, it should go without saying that no rule should be observed 100% of the time. And now more often than not, you'll see that particular rule used to misdirect because everybody expects it now. If I opened this comic with someone, cleaning a pistol, you would expect like, oh, that pistol's going to come up later. Because that everyone is like now kind of obsessed with following that weird arbitrary rule. Now you use it as a misdirect. The pistol will come up later, but not in the way you expect. No one's going to fire it. It turns out it doesn't have any ammo or whatever the thing is. Like they'll do some kind of a thing like that. And sometimes actually it can be hacky where like not only will they show you a gun in the first act, we're just doing that as the example because of the rule, but they'll really linger on it. Like the camera will zoom in, or someone in a comic, they'll draw something and they'll really spend, like you can tell, like they're really trying to get your eyes on this thing. So you see it, don't forget this thing. It's going to be important later. Like that's clunky. Some of this is like, I got to show you something. Draw it in a way where maybe you won't not see it, but kind of make it like maybe you noticed it even if I didn't intend you to notice. Like it needs to be subtle. It needs to be there where you did clock it, but you didn't think about it. That's, I think, the sweet spot. You don't put the gun on the mantle, hanging over the fireplace or whatever. You don't like make a point of having someone point out this thing in the room, but you do it in a way where the reader they did see it. It was there. Like they're not later saying like, well, that wasn't there. And then they go back and see that it was. Like it was there, but anyway, coming up with like, what is the view of this room? It's a little bit of that. It's trying to figure out like, okay, what are the things I want them to see? I want them to see like where this is or what that thing is. But I don't want to make a big deal of it. I know, again, as usual, it's a little vague because I'm trying to avoid spoilers and specifics, but what can you do? Where are we at? How long have we been streaming? Okay. There's no way this will go over 2 hours unless someone like pops in to guest. We're at about an hour and a half right now. It'll probably, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my reference sorted out. I'm going to get my model perspective figured out. And then I'll probably close it for the day and work. And then when I see you next week, be starting page 22. So I think we already have about the length of your average American comic. I could be wrong, but I think the standard length is something like 23 pages, 20, something like that. Squatch would know what a normal floppy length is. I mean, we're not doing normal floppies, but just for reference. One thing I am excited to watch, and I might watch tonight after I've gotten some work done, is Doctor Strange 2, which I did not see in the theaters. I've been waiting for it to come to Disney Plus. And I feel like a lot of people I know who have seen it really liked it. So I'm looking forward to that. I like Sam Raimi. I like the Doctor Strange character. I like Scarlet Witch. So I have high hopes. Yeah, 2024. That's what I figured. I'm not going to talk specific page counts yet, but 79 is going to be a little more than double a standard comic length. It's going to be in line with 75 and 97, like that kind of range. So. And I do believe I'm deciding where something's going to be in a room. You know, each one I do try to raise my game. I felt like '97 was more ambitious than 75. Not saying better or worse, just in terms of ambition, in terms of level of work that it required and what's going on in it and how complicated or simple a story it is. And what am I drawing and how easy is it to draw what I'm drawing? You know, that's what I'm talking about. 97 was more ambitious than 75. 79 is more ambitious than 97. There's a lot going on. And there is, and it should be this way, but there's lots of stuff where when I was writing it, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pull this off. And even now as I'm drawing it and I'm looking at my, like I have my page list, I know what's coming, and there's still stuff where it's like, I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I guess we'll figure it out. It's stretching. It's stretching me, which is good. It should always be that way. It should never be just, and I know the one after that, the one after this one, D vs. M 2001, that one's going to be bananas too. Like I'm trying not to even think about how sometimes I can't help it. Like, how am I going to draw that? How am I going to draw the story I've come up with? But like, it's going to be crazy. And then the one after that is crazier still. Like they're going to build and build and build. The last one, the way I envision it, D versus M, basically number 6, the conclusion of the whole series. in a way, and I don't mean this literally, I don't want people to assume like, oh, it's going to be like the two Men in Black from 75 again. But in a way, it's going to come full circle where it's going to refocus on a very kind of small character kind of dialogue thing. There'll be like, you know, the action stuff, there'll be some sights and sounds and sci-fi horror stuff, but it'll kind of like, if in terms of like how crazy things will get, like if 75 is down here and it's kind of tight, kind of focused, not too off the charts. 97 was like this, it gets a little wild at places. 79 is going to get very wild at places. The next two after this also were like really kind of crazy, but then like the last one, it's going to kind of like, it's going to get quiet again. And you're going to hopefully have sort of a, you know, if I do this right, a satisfying and kind of thoughtful and interesting and powerful conclusion to this whole thing, but not in, it won't be the big, like, you know, Armageddon, you know, like it's not going to culminate in something like that, obviously, because this is all true story. Like the world didn't end. But it's going to end in another way that's, I think, going to be equally, if not more powerful. We're going to get all the kind of crazy, like, stuff out of the way. And then it's like, okay, so then now we're going to end in a, I think what's appropriate for D versus M, a very character way that I think will pay off. The way I've written it, at least, will pay off. But to get there, shit has to happen in this one that's crazy. Shit has to happen in the next one that's crazier. Shit has to happen in the one after that that's even crazier still before we can like, okay, now, you know. But we'll see. We'll see if I can pull it off. Yeah, you know, I remember, and I liked WandaVision. It was okay. But boy, it seemed like Stephen Strange should have showed up. I mean, it just was begging for, and we were all convinced. We were all convinced, like, oh, for sure he'll cameo like in the last one or something, right? Like it would have made sense. But I don't know. Maybe he was unavailable, or maybe he was asking for too much money, or who knows? Or maybe they knew they were going to do this Multiverse of Madness, and but I don't know. If they knew they were going to do this, then you tease it. I don't know. It's hard to understand what they're doing sometimes, but I did like WandaVision. It was okay. I can say I've enjoyed the Marvel TV stuff more than the Star Wars TV stuff. Like, I feel like it's at least, I don't know if any of it's been mind-blowing. I did really like Loki. Like, Loki was pretty fun. I feel like they all kind of play it pretty safe, like the Marvel series. But they're all, at least, I felt like they've all been at least decent. Like, they're all pretty good. Like, off the top of my head, I can't think of a Marvel series where I was like, that was stupid. Like, even the ones I ultimately wasn't that into, I thought were at least good. I don't know. Maybe I'm forgetting one. Let's see. Okay. Trying to, as discussed, come up with a cool view. Maybe something like this. That might work. Do you hear me deleting things? Do you hear the sound effect? Okay. All right. I think that's about as far as I can go without really focusing. So, thanks for everyone who dropped by. Sorry I was a little late today. Next week, like I said, it should be the normal time, 11 a.m. Probably, I don't want to commit them because we haven't totally set it in stone, but probably Josh will be by and talk about themes in our comics. Talk about Jake's apartment a little bit. And I don't know, maybe I'll have some reactions to Multiverse of Madness. That would be pretty cool. I do really, really want to try and watch it. Have a safe and happy 4th of July. Such as it is, I have to say the news is a real bummer right now, but whatever. I can't even. The Star Wars rant was enough for today. We don't need more ranting. But anyway, thanks for coming by. D vs. M is still available in the Etsy shop. There's still some copies there if you want to pick up 75 or 97. And I think that's all I got for today. So I will see you all next week. Talk to you later.